You're listening to the Broken Havoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications.
What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc Podcast, here to review Monday Night Raw from April 11th, 2022. Overall thoughts on this show. I honestly thought that this show was kind of there, to be quite honest with you. Really, the only things interesting on the show were Cody Rhodes and The Miz, Damian Priest, and the Usos, and that's it. Everything else on the show is just pure garbage. Was it as bad as SmackDown? No. Really, SmackDown has become the worst show in the history of professional wrestling. Raw is right there, but really, Raw has gotten a little bit better, but not by a long shot. There's still a lot of aspects on the show that is not really that good, in my opinion. But we got a lot of things to talk about right here on the Raw review. But before I get on with the review for Monday Night Raw, make sure to like and subscribe to the Broken Havoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the Broken Havoc Podcast is now available on audio formats. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to check out the Broken Havoc Podcast in audio format, it's available on all of those platforms. Oh my god, my language is somewhat weird right now. But overall, we're going to talk about Raw. Raw this week was kind of there, and I talked about Raw last week on the Raw review and how I was talking about didn't really feel like the Raw after WrestleMania. And WWE, like for the past couple of years, always talk about how the Raw after WrestleMania is the biggest Raw of the entire year. But last week on Raw, it really wasn't there. The crowd wasn't really as enthusiastic, I should say, as a typical Raw after WrestleMania crowd is. Like, I can remember the Raw after WrestleMania the Raw after WrestleMania 29, where the crowd in the Izod Center were literally going crazy. They were like on some drugs or something, because they were chanting the most randomest shit ever. But really, we didn't really get that last week. We kind of got that in the Edge segment with Damian Priest, but really after that, there was nothing else. Of course, we had the Cody Rhodes promo, which he cut a fantastic promo on Raw last week. Of course, that was the opening segment, in which that promo was actually, apparently it was scripted, but to me, I didn't feel like it was scripted whatsoever, mainly because of the fact that Cody Rhodes' promo last week on Raw definitely felt like a promo he would cut on AEW Dynamite. And this segment that he had with Miz was absolutely amazing. I absolutely enjoyed the segment that Cody Rhodes had with Miz. Honestly, I feel like honestly this is the first time I'm putting over a Miz TV segment. Literally, I do not know. I don't even know the last time I actually put over a Miz TV segment. Maybe I have, I just do not remember. But this Miz TV segment was fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed it. Cody Rhodes definitely has great chemistry with The Miz. Not only that, everything that The Miz was saying was hilarious. It was really entertaining, but at the same time, it was really serious. Of course, we also got Damian Priest. Damian Priest is now in this new faction with Edge. We do not know what it's called yet. There were supposed to be new members debuting for this new faction this week, but apparently Rhea Ripley was not on the show because of some COVID protocol, so hopefully she can get back on track next week. Tommaso Ciampa makes his debut on Raw. He didn't wrestle a match, but he makes his debut. He's officially a member of the Raw roster. Elias, a.k.a. Ezekiel, Kevin Owens is still pissed off about that, which I'm not going to lie is actually pretty entertaining to listen to. Not only that, we also have other stuff on the show. Of course, the Usos are planning to take over the tag team division. Finally, WWE unifying the tag team championships is definitely the right way to go, considering the fact that the brand split is a complete joke. Granted, they're still going to have the roster split, but, having a unified tag team championships is definitely the way to go, considering the fact that, really, if you have two tag team championships, there's no real division on each side. So it makes the perfect sense for the Usos to, win the tag team championships in the near future. But we're going to be talking about the Raw show. The Raw kicks off with The Miz in Miz TV. Jerry Lawler is on commentary, mainly because of the fact that Corey Graves is currently on his honeymoon with Carmella. So congratulations to Corey Graves and Carmella for getting married. So that's why Jerry Lawler is on commentary. Miz asks the crowd how they really feel. and he welcomes everybody to, as Miz would state, the most must-see WWE talk show in history. Welcome to, and then the whole crowd does the whole freaking Miz TV thing. Then his guest has been the talk of the town after his shocking return. He asks the crowd if he can beat him tonight. Of course, Miz faces Cody Rhodes later on tonight. Seth Rollins considers himself very better, but his guest is very good considered, but he, the Miz considers himself better. His guest is the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Then Cody comes out, and then Miz says he is trying to upstage him on his own show. So this was the thing. So when Cody Rhodes came out, man, the amount of pyro that this guy got, like, it was even more than the amount of pyro that Roman Reigns gets every week whenever he does his entrance. It was the craziest thing ever, and everybody was calling WWE out, and I'm like, dude, you didn't have to overdo the freaking pyro, but that was hilarious to see. And Miz actually called Cody Rhodes out. He was like, dude, you're trying to upstage him, and you're basically blowing half the pyro budget. That was the funniest shit ever. But he asks him if he's an egomaniac, and Cody says it's been a long time since he has been in front of a crowd like this, baby. So Cody Rhodes is definitely on fire. Cody Rhodes continues to take the spotlight from The Miz, and Miz wants to get started. So Miz talks about how last week he made an emotional explanation on why Cody returned to WWE. He wanted to make his father proud, that being the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Miz calls it admirable, but he has to be honest. If it wasn't for his family name, he wouldn't be the son of a plumber. He would have just been a plumber. Ouch. Then Cody Rhodes says that's clever, and says that why is being a plumber. He talks about how why being a plumber is good, right? Is good. Because he is completely full of shh. He doesn't say shit, but he was about to. And then he talks about Miz and talks about how he hasn't changed a day, and he really hasn't. He's arrogant, obnoxious. He is a full-blown carny. Damn, he got a lot from Matt Hardy right there. I'm just kidding. And then the fact that he embraces, what he does, makes him reliable. Good old reliable Mike. And he's going to ask him something. Does he look different? What has he been doing for 6 years? All that heads to his goal on winning the undisputed Universal WWE Championship belt. Yes, he says belt. So after Cody Rhodes states belt, Miz instantly cuts him off and says it's not a belt like that you put in your pants. It is a title. So that was the funniest shit ever. That was great to see, and I'll talk about that later on after I'm done with this. And then Miz says he heard a little birdie that Seth wants a rematch. And Miz says he doesn't like his chances against him. And the Miz talks about him at Mania. So he basically talks about how everybody was talking about Cody Rhodes, and then Miz just goes on a tirade. The crowd is then chanting Cody's name, but Miz doesn't surprise his opponents. He didn't surprise his opponents, the Mysterios, and destroyed Logan. But everybody wants to talk about Cody Rhodes. Says he knows where he has been, but this is his show. And the Miz proceeds to start yelling. Cody wants Miz to settle down. He will tell him something he knows on his show. He respects him. He gets the sense that his hostility is maybe he feels a little threatened by him. He wants to make this personal, but he knows there would be doubt. He knew that he could come back and face the best wrestlers in the world. That's what Cody says. And then instantly, Miz cuts him off and says, superstars, not wrestlers. And then he's looking, forward to his match against The Miz. And we get a bunch of Cody chants. It says that it is against him on his first match back on Raw. And Cody says that may the best man win. Miz, after that, when Cody Rhodes leaves, he tries to go for the cheap shot, but then Cody catches him and sends him straight to the outside. And the segment ends. Overall thoughts on this opening segment with The Miz and Cody Rhodes. I remember when WWE first announced that, Cody Rhodes was going to be going up against The Miz, and everybody was crapping all over it. I wasn't one of those people. Actually, I don't even recall us tweeting anything about this match. I think I retweeted it, but honestly, I didn't have any problem with it. Yes, The Miz can sometimes be one of the worst heels in the business, and what I mean by that is that remember the shit that he was doing with John Morrison? That was terrible. But Miz definitely has the potential on being a really good heel. I stated, there are some aspects of The Miz that I do not like. Some of the stuff he says can be really overscripted, but Miz has the potential on being a really good heel. The reason why I say that is because look at his work back in 2016. His work back in 2016 was arguably The Miz's best work of his entire career. And this segment with Cody Rhodes definitely shows that. One of the reasons why I definitely enjoyed this segment is because of the dynamic between the pro wrestler and the sports entertainer. I think that that dynamic right there and that animosity right there definitely makes that whole segment really interesting. Those small aspects of, Cody Rhodes talking about, how he wants to win the championship belt, but then Miz instantly cuts him off and says that, oh yeah, it's a title, not a belt. Or, how Cody Rhodes calls the superstars wrestlers, and the Miz instantly cuts him off and, says they're superstars, not wrestlers. Things like that make it interesting. And this is why I currently love the Jericho Appreciation Society. They're using the term sports entertainment as heel heats because they know the AEW audience does not like the term sports entertainment. They like professional wrestling. In this case, Miz is a sports entertainer. Cody Rhodes is the guy coming in. Who is a pro wrestler and wants to win the championship belt, but he knows that this company is not really high on professional wrestling. They're more highly on sports entertainment. So Cody Rhodes, that dynamic right there, I 100% enjoy. And that's really what made this whole segment interesting, because Miz is really good on the microphone. Whatever you want to say about him, yes, he was in a lot of cringe segments, especially this past year with Johnny Drip Drip. You guys remember that? Those segments were arguably one of the worst segments in the entirety of Monday Night Raw. Like, honestly, like that version of The Miz sucked. Like, The Miz back in 2016 was amazing. That is my favorite version of The Miz, and he knew how to generate heel heat. Miz right here in this segment with Cody Rhodes knew how to generate heel heat by saying, stuff like, it's not a belt, it's a title. Things like that make it interesting, and that's what I really enjoyed about this. So apparently one of the reasons why Cody Rhodes said the things that he said, things like belt and wrestler, is because WWE's bringing him in. So apparently there was a report that came out, which I will probably have the link in the description, but what I read, they were saying that the reason why they are allowing Cody Rhodes to say these types of things is because they want to bring in Cody Rhodes as like somebody different to kind of like break the boundaries and be like, oh yeah, he's able to say these things because, he's a Rhodes. Something like that. That's what I read. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard. But overall, this was a fantastic segment by The Miz and Cody Rhodes. I absolutely enjoyed it for what it was. It was definitely really entertaining. Not only that, to me, I don't know why, man, seeing the American Nightmare version of Cody Rhodes on WWE television, I know it's been a week already, but I still can't believe that WWE kept the same thing. Like, they did not change anything at all about Cody Rhodes from AEW. They kept everything the same, and honestly, I commend them for that, because if they had changed anything about Cody Rhodes from AEW, I would have been extremely disappointed. And honestly, I'm definitely happy to say that, Cody Rhodes should definitely be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. To me, it makes perfect sense, and you can do that long-term storytelling. Like, I even advocated for WWE, like, I tweeted this out, like, WWE should do War Games, like a Team WWE versus the Bloodline at Survivor Series inside War Games. Not only to pay tribute for Cody Rhodes to pay tribute to his father, but also for WWE to really tell the story between WWE and the Bloodline. Because right now, where they're going right now, they're going for the Bloodline to go full dominance throughout the entire company. Of course, you have Roman Reigns being the champion on both shows. Also, the Usos are definitely targeting the Raw Tag Team Championships. So who knows what the hell is going to happen, but we're going to have to wait and see in the near future. All right. Dominik versus Veer Mahan. Of course, Dominik faced The Miz last week on Raw, and then after the match, what happened? Miz beat Dominik in less than a minute, and Veer Mahan came in to attack Dominik, and he basically made him tap out officially. So what happens? Dominik versus Veer Mahan. Of course, Veer was definitely hyped for how many months since October, and then he finally made his debut last week. So Dominik goes for an overhand chop. We get a clothesline by Dominik. We get a shot to the back by Dominik. Veer then goes for a takedown. Then Veer gets taken to the outside. Dominik goes for a crossbody, but then gets caught. Veer then hits Dominik onto the barricade. We get a clothesline on Dominik on the outside. Both then get back in the ring. Veer goes for a clothesline, and he applies the cervical clutch. Dominik then tabs out. Veer wins, but then he continues to apply the clutch on Dominik and does not let go. What happens, the doctors come in, and then they put Dominik in a stretcher, and then Dominik is stretched out and headed to the hospital. So they're definitely, looking highly on Veer as this unstoppable monster, which we'll have to see where this goes. Do I think this is going to make him into a main eventer? No, I do not see Veer being a main eventer, honestly, to be quite honest with you. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was ever the United States champion or something like that. I mean, Veer is really good in the ring. you guys haven't seen his match, because he has wrestled on Raw before all those vignettes, and it became a meme. He was partnered with Jinder Mahal. Like he was literally wrestling on Raw, and he wrestled really good matches. He wrestles really well, but we'll have to wait and see where this goes when it comes to Veer Mahan. Honestly, I doubt WWE has any plans for Veer Mahan. I feel like they're gonna have him squash everybody throughout the next couple of months, in my opinion. That's just what I think. All right. So earlier today, or I should say earlier before the show even started, Edge attacked Damian Priest backstage, which led to a match between AJ Styles versus Damian Priest. Of course, last week, Edge, or I should say at WrestleMania, the match between Edge versus AJ Styles, which I thought was not a bad match, but really it didn't live up to my expectations. I definitely expected the match to be a little bit better than what we got, but really AJ was definitely selling his arm. Like, it looked like a legit injury he had, but thankfully nothing of that really happened. But overall, I thought the match was all right. It was definitely not better than Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes. Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes was definitely a much better match. But overall, what are my thoughts on Damian Priest versus AJ Styles? It was a pretty good match for what it was. Hopefully, we do not get rematches in the next couple of weeks between AJ and Damian Priest. But really, the whole norm of this match was this match had no conclusion whatsoever. So what happened? I'm gonna start off with the match. So we got a couple of right hands by AJ. We got a couple of chops by AJ in the corner. Priest then fights back. We got multiple kicks by Damian Priest. We got a rolling elbow by Priest after that, but AJ takes Priest to the outside. AJ then goes for a running knee from the apron, sending Priest headfirst to the ring post. We get a phenomenal forearm onto the outside, taking Priest to the timekeeper's area after that. AJ is in control. AJ then goes for the phenomenal forearm over the top. We go to commercial break. Once we're back from break, both fight it out. We get a back elbow by AJ Styles. AJ then goes for an inverted DDT. Then we get a forearm by Styles. That inverted DDT, by the way, that is classic AJ Styles right there. He did a lot of that in TNA back in the day. I always advocated for this, man. AJ should do the spiral tap once again, man. I know he's a little older right now, but come on. AJ, I know you're not watching this, but bro, do the spiral tap at least one more time. But we got a neck breaker by Styles. We got a cover engineer fall. Styles then goes to the top, but he gets caught. Priest then flattens AJ face first to the mat. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a couple of kicks by Priest. Priest that sends up the reckoning, but then Styles counters into the Pele kick. As Don West would say, the Pele! Like, he would literally freak out over the Pele kick. We got a bunch of forearms by Styles. He would want to go for the phenomenal forearm, but then Priest gets the leg up. Priest is in the corner, and then at this point, the lights go down. In dramatic fashion, the lights go down. We go to commercial break, but once we're back from break, and the match instantly ends. So, there's really no real winner in the match, which to me kind of made no sense, because, I don't know, it just made no sense for me. How come the lights would just instantly go down, and the match would instantly end? That's just a lack of logic right there, but we'll have to see where this goes. But we get a backstage interview with AJ Styles. AJ looks pissed off, and he doesn't care. He talks about how he doesn't care what Edge does or any of his goons do. They're not going to stop him from getting to him, and he says that he's going to be his. So where does this lead to? Does this lead to a possible rematch between Edge versus AJ Styles? Who knows? We're going to have to wait and see in the near future, but we do not know where this is going to go. So the rumored members for this new faction is Tommaso Ciampa and Rhea Ripley. I heard Shotzi Blackheart's name being involved as well, but I think she's less likely. I think it's most likely going to be either Rhea Ripley or Tommaso Ciampa. Now, keep in mind, Tommaso Ciampa is officially now a member of the Raw roster, so, what better way to utilize him correctly or in a good way rather than having him job out to guys like fucking Ezekiel, then it's best to put him in the faction with Edge, because it can literally elevate Tommaso Ciampa to greater heights. You never know what can happen, but I feel like the best decision is for them to add guys like Tommaso Ciampa and Rhea Ripley, because Rhea Ripley, keep in mind, Rhea Ripley, yes, she was a former Raw Women's Champion, but let's be honest, did you guys all enjoy that championship run by Rhea Ripley? I know I didn't. I definitely did not enjoy it. I feel like Rhea Ripley is much better suited as a babyface rather than a heel. I mean, I'm much better suited as a heel as a babyface. My apologies. But that is just me. And Tommaso Ciampa as well. Like, he's much better suited as a heel. He's a great babyface, but like he was so like psychotic as a heel, in my opinion. So it'd be awesome if he was part of the faction as well. But we'll have to wait and see where this goes. I feel like this is definitely something that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on in the near future, and you guys all are also going to keep an eye on. This new faction is definitely interesting, and even though this is definitely for Edge, this whole new faction, in my opinion, is set for Damian Priest, because this new faction is definitely going to, in the long term, going to make Damian Priest as a much bigger star. That's what I see in the near future, but we'll have to wait and see. All right. We got Cody Rhodes versus The Miz in a, it was not the best match, but it was not a bad match. I expected the match to be really good. I remember Jimmy Smith actually stating that the match was instantly going to start at 9 o'clock. So once he said that, I was like, okay, I think this has the potential on being a really, really good match. It was an okay match. It was not the best match, but, the match was just there. It's your typical Raw match. That's basically what Cody Rhodes versus The Miz was. But, of course, this is Cody Rhodes' first match on Monday Night Raw in 6 years. And overall, again, it was not that bad of a match. We get a power slam by Cody. Cody goes for a disaster kick, taking Miz to the outside. Then Miz goes back in the ring. He tries to go for the disaster kick again, but then Cody escapes and but Miz escapes and hits the skull-crushing finale. Cody then hits a front suplex. We get a cover and a near fall. He applies a side shin lock. Cody then takes Miz to the front turnbuckle. Miz then goes for a kick to the midsection. We get a kick by Miz, and then he drives the knee back to the back of Cody. At this point, Miz is in control. Then we get a couple of stomps by Cody. We get a side chin lock by Miz. We get a couple of body shots by Miz. We get a right hand. Then after that, we get repeated rights by Cody. Cody then goes to the apron, but then Miz kicks him onto the outside. Once we're back from break, Miz is in control. We get a right hand by Miz, but then Cody dares him to hit him. So that was an awesome moment during the match. We get a couple of clotheslines by Cody. He picks up Miz and hits a delayed slam. Then we get a cover by Cody and a near fall. Cody then, once Miz is on the outside, hits a tope suicida. He sends Miz to the ring. Cody then goes to the top, but then he misses. We get a shotgun dropkick to the knee of Cody by Miz. Miz then applies the figure four. Then Cody slaps Miz, and then both proceed to exchange slaps to one another, so that was awesome to see. Cody then reverses the figure four, and Miz gets the painful, part of the figure four. And then Miz finally gets his hand on the bottom rope, but then Cody gets up. We get a kick and a right hand by Cody Rhodes. Cody then goes for the Cody Cutter, but then Miz, from the middle rope, I should say. Then Cody hits the Crossroads. We get a cover by Cody, and he wins the match. And keep in mind, Seth Rollins was in ringside watching this entire match. He wasn't on commentary. I believe he wasn't on commentary, but he was on ringside watching the entire match. So after that, Seth Rollins comes in the ring, and then Cody targets the goal by doing the gesture. So he's definitely targeting the WWE Championship. And what happens after that? So Rollins comes in, and then, he's heard all the things that he had to say. And, he heard the word rematch. And he needs to remember that he was a surprise. He had, he had the advantage, and he was thinking that that being Rollins, he was saying that Rollins versus Rhodes, part 2. And then Cody says yes. So we officially got Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins part 2 at WrestleMania Backlash. I hate the name WrestleMania Backlash. Can't you just call it the pay-per-view Backlash? They've been calling it the pay-per-view Backlash since 1999. Why the hell did they have to change it to WrestleMania Backlash? I get it. It's marketing, and the WrestleMania name sells a lot, but still, really, WrestleMania Backlash? Come on, man. Get the hell out of here. Just call it Backlash. But we got Rollins versus Cody Rhodes part 2. I stated on the WrestleMania review, on the Night 1 review, that this whole feud should be a trilogy. Cody Rhodes' first feud back should be against Seth Rollins. Not only that, it should be a whole trilogy. And honestly, it doesn't matter who wins, because they're definitely going to be having a rubber match in the near future. This match is going to be awesome. If anything, from what we've seen at WrestleMania, things are going to be so much better in this match at Backlash. The WrestleMania match was amazing, but who knows what the hell is going to happen on the Backlash match. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm definitely excited. WrestleMania Backlash, they're definitely, banking on it. Now, we do not know who Roman Reigns' opponent is going to be yet, but we'll have to wait and see. Tommaso Ciampa, we get a backstage interview with the newest member of the Raw roster, Tommaso Ciampa. Then Ezekiel comes in, a.k.a. Elias. He introduces himself. But then Kevin Owens comes in and says that he is Elias. Kevin Owens does not like liars. And then Ezekiel says that he is mistaken. And then Tommaso even stated that he is Ezekiel. Okay, man, Ezekiel, like, this kind of made no sense. I mean, now, I'm not going to lie, man. I'm actually, the whole Kevin Owens and Ezekiel thing is funny as hell to me because, everything that Kevin Owens states is pure gold. Like, he's a pure entertainment machine. Like, Kevin Owens is amazing at what he does, man. He knows how to make you laugh. And every time when Kevin Owens says that he doesn't like liars, his tone makes me laugh. I do not know why. It's just so funny. But this whole Ezekiel thing, I don't know why they're doing this whole Ezekiel thing. Now, there was a photo that was actually, floating around with Elias next to Ezekiel. That is 100% a Photoshop, 100%. That is not a real photo. But everybody was, like, falling for it, and I'm like, no, it's a Photoshop, everybody. It's a Photoshop. But where does this whole Ezekiel thing go? Like, this is such a comedy joke. Like, I don't know where the hell this goes. It's so dumb and stupid, but at the same time, it's kind of funny. Like, mainly because of Kevin Owens, because, like, the fact that Kevin Owens always, like, call him out for it, like, that was the funniest shit ever. All right. We got Liv Morgan versus Naomi. Of course, Liv Morgan faced Sasha Banks this past Friday on SmackDown, in which Liv Morgan actually pinned Sasha Banks clean, dead center in the ring. Rhea Ripley is out due to protocol, as I stated earlier. Due to COVID protocol, I should say. The match is pretty short. It was not really that long of a match. Both lock up. We get a side headlock by Naomi. We get a shoulder tackle by Naomi. We get a bunch of counters after counters. We get a kick to the face by Naomi. Liv then goes for a Hurricane Rana. We get a kick to the face by Liv again. We get a cover and a near fall. We get a roll up by Liv and a near fall. Both then try to go for the Enziguri, but then both go down. She tries to go for the Oblivion, but then Naomi counters. Liv goes to the top and hits a Hurricane Rana, but then Naomi counters into a beautiful powerbomb. Then we get a roll up by Naomi, but then she hits a beautiful counter roll up by Liv. So, like, there was a bunch of roll up reversals, but at the end of the day, Naomi got the better of Liv Morgan in those roll up exchanges, and Naomi beats Liv Morgan clean in the center of the ring. So honestly, a match that really did not need to happen. It's just a generic match. Honestly, who cares? Really, it's not important whatsoever. We get a segment with Bobby Lashley. We got the VIP Lounge featuring Omos, of course, last week. MVP turned on Bobby Lashley. Lashley is in the ring, and he calls out MVP to explain why he did what he did last week. MVP comes out and asks him to stop embarrassing himself. Says that if he destroys the set, his loyals will have a bill for Lashley. And Lashley says that he can shove that bill up his ass. Omos is learning to be a businessman. What Lashley should be doing is changing his tone and put respect on his name. Him and the people should be saying thank you to MVP. And then MVP gives an explanation. Says when MVP came, Lashley was failing. It was him that gave Lashley all the greatness. He was the one that made Bobby Lashley. It was MVP that made him the one almighty. Lashley then talks about all the accomplishments that he did. MVP says that he is looking at the future. Omos is bigger and stronger and meaner than him. Says that he will take his place on the top of the mountain. He is smart enough to know that he needs him, and he promises that he won't survive the next match. And Lashley says that after he finishes with Omos, he is coming to get him, and Lashley destroys the setup, and really that was the segment. Overall, this whole feud with Omos and Lashley, honestly, it was a feud that kind of happened out of nowhere because they announced this match a week before WrestleMania. So honestly, what really was the interest for this match? Really, let's be honest, the interest for this match was 100% zero. Like, really, nobody cared about the match between Omos and Bobby Lashley. Now, with MVP involved and now turning on, Bobby Lashley, where does this take Omos? Hopefully he does not take him to the WWE Championship, mainly because of the fact that if he goes to the WWE Championship, I will be extremely disappointed. I don't think Omos should be the WWE Champion. Now, granted, they do have MVP now, so he's not going to speak on the microphone, but still, like, I don't think, to be quite honest with you, I'm just not really as invested with Omos being the WWE Champion. But definitely I see a rematch happening at Backlash. It makes total sense for it to happen, but we'll have to wait and see in the near future. Tozawa and Truth are at the club, and Reggie says they're having a double bachelorette party. I don't care, and I'm not even going to talk about this on the review because it's pure garbage. Austin Theory is backstage with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville. He wants a United States Championship match with Finn Balor. How many freaking times have we had Austin Theory versus Finn Balor? Well, we had that match over 1 million times. Like, seriously, it is insane. But, his match is granted. And Austin Theory says, you don't have to call me Austin Theory anymore. I bet I'd rather prefer it as just being called Theory. So WWE officially changes the name of Austin Theory. Name Change-A-Mania is running wild, everybody. I should trademark that. Name Change-A-Mania is running wild. Just like Rematch-A-Mania. I should trademark Rematch-A-Mania. I'm going to call this Name Change-A-Mania because WWE is obsessed with name changes. Either changing a name entirely or literally just taking out the first name and just adding the last name. Somehow Vince McMahon loves that shit. You guys remember Mustafa Ali? They just changed him to Ali. You guys remember Elias? Originally he was Elias Sampson, but then no, they took out Samson and called him Elias. Granted, that did actually much better for Elias because it got Elias much more over. But still, like, they love changing names for no apparent reason. Like, Ludwig Kaiser, that was the name change for Marcel Bartel, or Walter with Gunther, or the most unnecessary name change for Raquel Gonzalez, that being Raquel Rodriguez, which is the most unnecessary, name change, like, whatsoever. Like, that was a dumbass name change. Why would you change Raquel Gonzalez into Raquel Rodriguez? Honestly, what is the difference? It makes no sense. So the fact that they changed Austin Theory just to Theory is so retarded. And not only that, Austin Theory is not a bad name. So why the fuck would you just change it to Theory? These are the same people, that love, just changing shit. Like, I don't understand. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Like, Austin Theory sounds like a douchebag heel name, in my opinion. It sounds like a guy that you would love to slap in the face, that being Austin Theory. He's a guy that pisses me off because he's a damn good heel. But damn, why would you just change his name to Theory? It makes no sense. Absolutely no sense whatsoever. So the fact that you just change his name to Theory, red flag right there. I don't care. Kevin Owens then comes in and rants about Ezekiel's name, and then he wants to put him through a lie detector test. So then later on, she talks to Pierce, and she says that she has Bianca Belair's next opponent. Then we got Bianca Belair versus Queen Zalina. Queen Zalina cuts a promo on how she wants to become the Raw Women's Champion in the near future. Yeah, good luck with that. That's not gonna happen. And that's not me because that's not just like that's not because I want that to happen. No, I'm just saying it's just not gonna happen the way the booking is going. That's just me. Yeah, Zalina tries to go for a roll up, but then Bianca goes for a backflip. We get a backstabber by Zalina. We get a cover to near fall. Zelina's in control. She applies a chin lock. Then Bianca escapes. She hits a kick. We get a fall-away slam by Bianca. We get a kick by Bianca, and then Bianca picks up Zalina from the top. She drops Zalina face first to the mat. Then she picks up Zalina, and then she hits the KOD. Bianca goes for the win. And after that, Sonya Deville comes out, and she congratulates Bianca and puts her over on her match against Becky Lynch for winning the Raw Women's Championship and her match that she just had with Zelina Vega tonight. Says that it was an impressive accomplishment, and Sonya found her next opponent. It was not the easiest of tasks, but she talks to all the women and that want all the titles, and then she goes and talks about all the names. Like, she name dropped Doudrop, and I'm like, Doudrop, really? But she says that talks about all the women that wants the championship, and then Bianca says that bring whoever she wants, she'll step up, and then Bianca instantly signs the contract, and Sonya welcomes her next opponent, and then what happens? Sonya Deville attacks her from behind with a chop block, and who is her next opponent? Her next opponent is going to be Sonya Deville. Overall thoughts, I instantly knew from the moment that Sonya Deville was about a name, her next opponent, I was like, it's Sonya Deville. It's Sonya Deville. It made, especially from all the heel tactics that Sonya Deville was doing, it made total sense, in my opinion, for her to go after the championship. Do I think she's going to win the championship? No, I feel like that'd be a dumb decision considering the fact that Bianca Belair is really over as a babyface. It'd be quite dumb to basically, ruin that investment and just put the belt on Sonya Deville. But overall, they've been doing this whole thing with Sonya Deville and her doing all these heel tactics. I mean, starting with the whole Naomi feud, which to me, the whole Naomi feud made no sense, considering the fact that there was no real explanation to it whatsoever. And if there was, if there was any explanation to the feud, WWE did not even mention it on television, considering the fact that they do not know how to explain things. But the whole Naomi feud with Sonya Deville really made no sense to me because it was something that really happened out of nowhere and there was no real explanation to it. And this whole feud right here, after that whole feud with Naomi, to me kind of made sense that Sonya Deville would get the championship match. But is she going to go over and win the Raw Women's Championship? Absolutely not. All right, Dana Brooke and Tamina are partying. Brawl breaks loose. R-Truth comes in. It's a garbage segment. I don't even want to talk about it. RK Bro versus Alpha Academy. Like, honestly. And the reason why I say that is because even though R-Truth is pretty entertaining, this whole, I tweeted this out after watching this weird ass segment. You had like guys dancing and shit. Like, it was one of the worst. I tweeted this out, man. Stuff like this is one of the reasons why I think AEW Dynamite is a much better show than Raw. I don't care what anybody says. That is just my opinion. We get RK Bro versus Alpha Academy. Overall, like, this is not a bad match, but the only problem is I've seen this match like 10 million times. So honestly, what is the point of this match? Really, there's no point of this match whatsoever. We get a couple of chops by Riddle. We get a kick by Riddle. We get a suplex. Randy then tags in. He works on Cable. We get a double team attempt by RK Bro. We get repeated rights by Riddle, who is the legal man. Otis then tags in. We get a double team attempt by Alpha Academy. Then Riddle is taken to the outside. At this point, Otis is in control. Once we're back from commercial break, Gable's in control over Riddle. Otis then makes the tag. We get a German suplex by Gable. Then after that, we get a splash by Otis. We get a cover engineer fall. Then Gable then tags in. Gable then goes to the top, but then gets caught into a knee. Riddle then goes for the knee on Riddle. Randy then makes the hot tag. He hits a power slam, and then he takes him to the middle rope, hits the DDT. He tries to go for the RKO, but then Chad Gable counters it, but Randy counters back and hits the RKO himself and wins the match. RK Bro win the match, but then what happens? The Usos come out. They arrive, and once we're back from break, the Usos come out, and Randy, on the mic, stated that they were wondering that they were going to show up. Says that the big dog, now this is actually a funny-ass line by Randy Orton. He says that the big dog let his bitches off the leash, which is hilarious. Then the Usos says that they're here on Raw to challenge them in a championship unification match. Then what happens? The Street Profits come out. It says that they were the ones that challenged RK Bro for the tag team championships until Alpha Academy made it a triple threat match. Ford then says that they're using the Bloodline privilege to get ahead, and the Usos and the Street Profits argue, and then Randy proposes a match between the Usos versus the Street Profits. So I believe they did not explain this on the show, but apparently whoever won the match would face RK Bro, and I assume that would probably be either on Raw or at WrestleMania Backlash. I do not remember or recall any of that. But overall, we had the Usos versus the Street Profits in the main event. This was a pretty long match, but it was not a bad match whatsoever. There was a lot of crazy-ass spots. Honestly, like, I really wasn't paying attention as much because I was already turned off with the show. But this was definitely leading towards the Usos. Both lock up. We get a wrist lock by Jimmy. We get a side headlock by Jimmy. We get a shoulder tackle. Ford then regains control. We get a chop by Ford. We get a right hand by Ford. Dawkins then tags in. We get a double team by the Street Profits on Jimmy. Jimmy then goes for a couple of chops on Dawkins, and then he sends Jimmy to the corner. Then we get a cover by Dawkins and a near fall. Dawkins then is in the corner. Jay then tags him and hits a jumping form after that. Then after that, Dawkins goes for a spinning elbow. Then after that, we get a cover engineer fall. Both Usos then plant Dawkins. Jimmy then drives the knee on Dawkins, and then Jay goes for the cheap shot on Dawkins when he wasn't the legal man. Then the Usos go for the clothesline off the top, and then a backbreaker combination on Dawkins. Then we get a clutch by Jay. Jimmy then makes the tag. We got a double team by the Usos working on the legs of Angelo Dawkins. Dawkins then fights back. Jimmy then fires back with an enziguri. We get a stomp by Jimmy, and then Jay is the legal man. He sends Dawkins into the corner. Dawkins then gets sent by the Usos onto the barricade, but then Ford takes them out with a beautiful ass somersault. I will say it once again. I constantly say it on the show. Montez Ford is a future main event star. I don't give a shit. The way he wrestles, he's really charismatic. The guy is a future main event star. Once we're back from break, Jimmy is in control. We got a side headlock by Jimmy. Dawkins then fires back with the silencer. At this point, the hot tag is made. We get a beautiful frog splash by Montez Ford, and it was a high-ass frog splash. Like Montez Ford, again, the way he wrestles is amazing. He really brings a uniqueness to the way he wrestles. We get a clothesline by Jay on Ford. We get an enziguri. We get a blockbuster by Ford. Jay then goes for the pump-up neck breaker. We get a cover engine near fall. We get a roll-up by Ford and a near fall. Jimmy then runs into a right by Dawkins. Then the Profits hit the blockbuster. We get a cover by Dawkins and a near fall. Dawkins then runs into a right. Jimmy then hits a super kick. Then Jay tags in. He hits a frog splash, but Dawkins gets the knees up. And then at this point, we're going for reversals here. Frog then tags in. He hits the frog splash again. We get a cover by Ford, but then Jimmy Uso interferes. Dawkins then gets sent shoulder first to the ring post. Then Ford takes Jimmy up on the apron. Jimmy then goes to apply the blind tag. They hit the 1D, and we get a cover, and the Usos win the match. After that, Randy hits the RKO on Ford, and then the Usos super kick Randy, and the Usos' intentions are clear. They want the Raw Tag Team Championships. Overall, it was a pretty good match to close off the show, but overall, at this point, I was kind of turned off with the show, to be quite honest with you. And that's not for this match. It's just, the show to me wasn't really as interesting. But overall, what are my thoughts on the Usos going after the Raw Tag Team Championships? It's a great decision, in my opinion. It makes total sense, because of the fact that the tag team division on WWE has been really stale, and really they're not really, good at showcasing tag team wrestling, and really they do not really have a lot of real tag teams. They're really the only real tag teams that they have are the Usos and the Viking Raiders. And maybe Alpha Academy, but honestly, they're not really, really after that, the majority of the tag teams are all makeshift tag teams. Even RK Bro. RK Bro became a tag team for themselves, but honestly, RK Bro is basically a makeshift tag team, but they're still enjoyable. I'm not going to lie. But again, really, what are my thoughts on, the championships being unified? It makes total sense. And honestly, I'm 100% for it. But that was my Raw review. Overall, this was it was an okay show, to be quite honest with you. But, really, there was things on the show that were just not really as interesting, to be quite honest with you. Really, the only things interesting were Damian Priest, Cody Rhodes, and the Usos. And everything else on the show is just pure garbage. I just did not care about that whatsoever. But yeah, overall thoughts on Raw. Raw was just there. It was not a terrible show. It was not a good, amazing show. It was kind of It was there. It did have its moments, but it had its moments that were absolutely terrible as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Raw from April 11th, 2022. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the Broken Havoc Podcast on YouTube. And as always, it is Broken Havoc, signing out.